Hello everyone and welcome back to part 3 of the Tekken Iceberg. If you want to see parts 1 and 2, a playlist will be linked in the description if you want to be up to date. If you don't want to do that, but don't know what an iceberg is, I'll explain it very briefly. Throughout the iceberg are several entries. Entries at the top of the iceberg tend to be well-known things and surface knowledge of a given topic, while the deeper you go the iceberg, the more strange and niche the entries become. With that explanation out of the way, let's begin. Death by Degrees. Death by Degrees is a weird game. It seems in an effort to expand the Tekken brand, in a way, they created the Nina project. But Death by Degrees is the only game associated with the Nina project. It seems like Bandai Namco wanted to make a game based off a spy action movie similar to James Bond. So they used Nina, who already fits the bill for a spy or secret assassin. The main plot of the game revolves around Nina infiltrating a giant criminal organization on a giant boat that they own. Nina learns about the organization's secret devastating plans, and their plan is to blow up the Earth by activating gas reserves at the bottom of the ocean with a giant orbital laser. Nina puts a stop to it and saves the day. Death by Degrees did not do that well and it was a commercial flop, with the main criticisms being the awkward controls holding the game back very heavily. Only two other Tekken characters I actually mentioned in this game, those being Anna Williams, Anna's sister, and Heihachi Mishima. So while it does take place in the universe of Tekken, it doesn't really do anything with it. Overall, it's a very forgettable game and a weird way for Bandai Namco to expand the Tekken universe. Tekken 2 Wireframe and Big Head modes. Tekken 2 had a couple of bonus modes for players to mess around with. One of them was the Wireframe mode, which you unlocked by holding down the L1 and L2 button until the game starts. A wireframe of the character you selected will appear. It will also put you in first person. It does this by putting the camera behind the wireframe character. So you have to fight by looking through your character. Impressive for the time, but incredibly janky for today's standards. Tekken 2 also had an extra mode where you could enlarge the heads of each character. To unlock the big head mode, you had to hold select before the game starts. Not only will your character have a giant head, but also give them a comedic, childlike voice, which is kind of funny. Astros Playroom. Astros Playroom is a game heavily inspired with the legacy of PlayStation games, and there are many series that used to be exclusive to PlayStation. Tekken used to be one of those franchises for a time, so they put references to Tekken characters like Kazuya and Heihachi fighting each other in Astros Playroom, where you can see both of them wrestling against each other. The Endless Slap Combo. While many games are usually separated from the main game, Tekken has some built-in minigame mechanics. Anna has one built-in minigame in one of her attacks. Her back 2 string has a unique mechanic when fighting against female characters, as female characters can slap back and get a knockdown. However, if you fight Anna as a male character, it won't work. But as of the production of this video being made very early in Season 2 of Tekken 8, there is a bug that lets male characters use the slap mechanic. And with enough messing around, you could swap movesets, leading to some absolutely hilarious chaos. School uniform costumes in Tekken 3. It is made very apparent that Jin and Ling are quite young teenagers, so in Tekken 3 they gave them high school uniforms as a costume. To unlock the school uniforms for both characters, you had to pick each character at least 50 times. Then you would press start as you select Jin or Xiaoyu, and you could play with the school outfits. The high school they go to is also known as Mishima Polytechnic High School, and you can see it in the background of one of the stages in Tekken 3, a school clearly owned by the Mishima Zaibatsu. The school has also been used in several games, especially the tag games, as you can see the high school uses a background for games like Tag Tournament 1 and Tag Tournament 2. Multiple characters with the same name. While most characters are designed to be unique, some characters share the exact same name. The main reason for this is because many of these characters are successors. For example, for King and Kuma in Tekken 3, they are not the same version as they were in Tekken 1 and 2, as King the First died in a battle with Ogre, and Kuma the First ended up dying of old age. Another example is Kunimitsu from Tag 2 to Tekken 7. The original Kunimitsu had a scarred face, while her daughter does not. The funniest example of this is Armor King, as there is no real successor to Armor King. Instead, what they did with Armor King is that he had a brother who is also Armor King. So there was just two Armor Kings, and one of them ended up being killed by Marduk. Because why not? While most of the time successors are fairly well thought out and tend to stay throughout the series, that doesn't mean every character is well realized when it comes to their lore. Yoshimitsu is human. Despite his wacky move list, Yoshimitsu is not some alien ninja from outer space. Rather, he is a human member of the Manji clan who constantly changes his armor from game to game. The Tekken 2 design of Yoshi reveals the most human side of him, as it has a lot of exposed sections, letting you see a lot of skin in its design. While a lot of armor sets given to Yoshi heavily mask his appearance, Tekken 8 does reveal some of Yoshi's more human characteristics, as in Tekken 8, one of his gloves is fingerless, letting you see human skin, showing that Yoshimitsu is still a man in armor. Wang and Jinpachi are best friends. The most well-known pair of best friends in Tekken are Martial Law and Paul Phoenix, but that doesn't mean they're the only pair of best friends. Two characters that are much older than them are also best friends, Jinpachi Mishima and Wang Jinrei. Jinpachi was the father of Heihachi, and unlike his future family members, he was actually known to be kind. In fact, Kazuya used to look up to him as a grandfather when he was young. And there is Wang Jinrei, Xiaoyu's grandfather. In Tekken 2, his main motivation for fighting in the tournament was a late letter sent from Jinpachi, a request to take down Kazuya from the Zaibatsu and give the Zaibatsu better leadership. Then, Jinpachi was revived in Tekken 5, where Wang competes in the tournament to see his old friend one more time. While Jinpachi only appeared in Tekken 5, watching Wang's ending is actually pretty sad.
Jinpachi, 你不要紧吧？すまない。お主にはまた迷惑をかけてしまった。说什么傻话？我们不是生死之交吗？Jinpachi。今一度杯を踏み交わしたかったが、残念ながら迎えが来たようだ。親友よ、さらばだ。嬉しかったぞ。Jinpachi。你西马家果真是被诅咒的一族吗？Jinpachi，看来我好像还不能跟你一起走啊。
Project X Zone. Project X Zone is an RPG on the 3DS which has several franchises that come from Sega, Bandai Namco, and Capcom. The game is filled with a ton of fan service when it comes to character interactions, as the game takes several characters from several IPs. You have representation from well-known games like Street Fighter, Resident Evil, Virtua Fighter, and Mega Man, to more niche series like God Eater, Sakura Wars, Tales of Vesperia, and Valkyrie Chronicles. And Tekken is part of the Project X Zone roster, as they included Heihachi, Jin, Kazuya, Xiaoyu, and Alyssa, all being playable and usable characters. Tekken X Street Fighter in development hell. Street Fighter Cross Tekken was planned to be a massive game. Unfortunately for Capcom, it didn't pan out that well, as multiple controversies would surround the game on release, from the gem system, making the game feel pay to win, on-disc DLC that was never removed due to complications, and the competitive scene being very lackluster. So when Tekken Cross Street Fighter was announced in 2010, people were wondering what happened to it. Turns out it was indefinitely suspended from development, which, as unfortunate as it was probably the right option, as Street Fighter Cross Tekken was performing very poorly. Tag 2 was the current game for Tekken, and that would almost put the Tekken franchise in jeopardy with how poor the sales were. If they continued to develop Tekken Cross Street Fighter, it probably would have actually killed Tekken as a brand. So it was a very smart decision to not go through with it. Tekken Tag HD. Tekken Tag Tournament initially released in arcades in July of 1999. The game was essentially an altered version of Tekken 3, but it included every character in Tekken history up to that point, with the exception of Gon, due to licensing. Then they released a port of the PS2, with much higher fidelity and graphics. Then, Bandai Namco would release something called Tekken Hybrid, a PS3 exclusive bundle pack that included the Tekken 3D movie, Tag 1 HD, and a demo version of Tag 2. And the demo version of Tag 2 included Deviljin, Kazuya, Xiaoyu, and Elisa, which are all the main characters from the 3D movie. Lars in Naruto Ninja Storm. When Lars was revealed in Tekken 6, it was very clear where his design influence came from his visual design to his Japanese voice acting despite being from Sweden. Tekken 6 was the first game to make original characters that were a major deviation from the more realistic appeal of martial arts that was the norm in Tekken games. As a fun crossover, they put Lars in a Naruto Ninja Storm game, giving him a major redesign in Ninja Storm. The costume was also made available in Tekken 6 for Lars to wear. Apparently, the back of the costume has the number 46, which is supposed to represent Sweden's country color code. It's funny to think that this super Japanese costume even attempted to reference Sweden in some way. Mokujin Mask in Little Nightmares 2. While Little Nightmares 2 is a horror game and doesn't have any real association with Tekken, what it does have are masks, and one of these masks is a Mokujin mask. The reason the Mokujin mask appears in the game, like Little Nightmares, is because the game was published by Bandai Namco, so they included the Mokujin mask for the PlayStation version. Unfortunately, the Mokujin mask is a pre-order bonus, meaning there's no way to get the mask in the game anymore. KOF Allstars. KOF Allstars is a mobile game from SNK. To create buzz around the game, they have crossover characters fairly frequently. They do crossover with popular fighting games like Street Fighter and Virtua Fighter and Guilty Gear. They also make collabs with popular anime IP like Gintama and Seven Deadly Sins. They even had a collab with WWE, so it's only natural they would do a collab with Tekken. The crossover characters are Tekken mainstays like Kazuya, Paul, Ling, and etc. Surprisingly, Armor King was included. Not that I'm complaining. Probably because he was a recent DLC at the time, plus his redesign also made him very popular, so including him wasn't a bad idea. Live action Tekken Tag 2 trailer. To celebrate the release of Tag 2, Bandai Namco released a live action trailer. It's a short film of Tekken characters fighting in real life. To give credit to where credit is due, the action is pretty good. Hwoarang and Law team up, and the fighting styles look pretty one-to-one. But once you get characters like Lee and Lars who have more fictional movesets, it's harder to adapt them. My main complaint for the person playing Lee is that it feels like he does way too much punches, not enough kicks. Aside from that, the whole production is quite good, and if you want to watch it, I'll provide a link in the description for you to watch. Jack's reaction to lasers. Most characters in Tekken are human, so when they get hit by a laser, they get hurt. End of story. However, when it comes to Jack, he is not a human. Instead, he is a giant robot, meaning he can actually absorb the laser. And when he absorbs the laser, he actually heals a bit of health back. Alyssa can also do this, as she is also a robot. While impractical in normal gameplay, as ducking and launching the laser will always be better, it is something funny you can do with the robotic characters in Tekken. Unknown is possessed. In Tag Tournament 1, after beating everyone in the arcade mode, the final battle will have you fight Unknown. Unknown is a character that only appears in the tag games, and there is no definitive answer to who Unknown is. There are some death files that imply she is June's sister. Some believe it is June possessed by an evil spirit. The origins of Unknown are dubious at best. It can only be speculated, as there is very little information to who or what Unknown even is. Pokken is Pokemon Tekken in Germany. Pokken is a fighting game that uses Pokemon as actual fighters. In most of the world, the game is known as Pokken Tournament, as it was Bandai Namco, who is a major studio in developing Pokken. However, in Germany and a few other European countries, the game was called Pokemon Tekken, The reason they didn't use Pokken is because Pokken is an actual word in some Germanic countries. Pokken can translate to smallpox, a deadly disease. Naturally, people distributing the game in Germany want the game to sell, so they changed the name. A funny example of how regional differences change a product. Netsu. In the tag games, there is a mechanic known as Rage, and it's a pretty simple system. As your first character gets hit, your second character would get mad and gain a rage buff, and all Rage does is buff your damage. The complicated part about Rage is knowing when Rage will activate, as the activation actually depends on the relationship of the two characters you have on your team. If two characters have no relationship, like Bob and Lars, they have a neutral relationship, so Rage activates at a certain point. If certain characters hate each other, like Jin and Kazuya, Rage activates way later. If two characters actually do like each other, like Paul and Law as their best friends, Rage will activate sooner. Rage is an important factor, especially in Tag 2, since Tag 2 had super high combo damage across the board. Getting Rage faster would mean you could end the round sooner. But if you use a team where both characters despise each other, like a team full of Mishimas, rounds would take longer as Rage activates much later, giving the opponent another chance to make a comeback. Tag 2 is already the most complicated game in the series, and having to understand the lore of character dynamics adds even more to those complications. Anna's uncensored ending in Tekken 3. Across the world are several culture differences. One big example is between America and Japan, as both countries have different sensibilities. While Americans are more comfortable with depictions of violence and gore in games like Mortal Kombat, sex appeal has always been a major taboo subject in the West. Naturally, this would affect how Anna Williams is depicted, as she is explicitly designed with sex appeal in mind. So in Tekken 3, they gave her an ending exclusive to the West. As in the Japanese version, Nina takes off Anna's bra to expose her chest to a bunch of men, while in the Western version, she doesn't do anything to Anna, and instead she just walks off with a bunch of men surrounding Anna while her swimsuit stays on. Mokujin secret woodblock sounds. In the Tekken games, whenever you hit someone, they usually have the same sound effect for when they get hit. There are two exceptions to this rule, those being Jack, as he is a giant robot, so he makes the sound effects of hitting metal. And there was Mokujin, who made the sound effects for hitting wood. Because Mokujin is literally made out of wood, turns out in Tag 2, you can change which sound effects occur during the loading screen. By holding down during the loading screen, it would change the effect of Mokujin's damage sound effects. It does not apply when Mokujin hits someone. A very weird Easter egg for Tag 2. Wang hitting on women in Tekken 5. While Wang Jinpachi may seem like a wise old sage, he's still a man, as he has special dialogue with female characters on intro cutscenes. He has some endearing ones, like asking Xiaoyu when it's dinner time. When it comes to more attractive women, however, he'll get very excited and start calling them hot. While it might seem a little inappropriate for Wang to be caught catcalling women, it's not that surprising to me. Should anyone be surprised that a 105-year-old traditional Chinese man gets easily excited by looking at young women? Not really, and it really shouldn't be that surprising. Street Fighter references in Fight Lab. In Tag 2, they made a tutorial for the game. Instead of being called a tutorial, however, it was called Fight Lab. It even had its own little story. Essentially, you're playing as a combat Lee is developing. Lee has to train the combat how to fight, which ends up teaching you how to play the game. Despite the tutorial, they had small references to Street Fighter. As Lee teaches you about movement, Ganryu, dressed up as E Honda, starts doing flying headbutts across the screen, and you have to avoid them as an obstacle. The last Street Fighter reference comes in the final chapter, where after Lee teaches you everything he knows, 3 mysterious fighters show up. They are all wearing costumes in reference to Street Fighter's Shoto characters. You have Bob, who has a costume as Ken, you have Ganryu cosplaying as Ryu, and for the final boss, we have Jinpachi as Akuma. A very fun references and a cool final boss despite such a tutorial mode. Tekken 2010 movie. Like many games, there is a live-action version that almost completely misses the points of the game somehow. Tekken is no exception to these adaptations, as the Tekken movie is essentially a Hollywood version of Tekken. While the choreography and costume design is fairly decent, there's not too much to the movie. Most of the casting feels actually somewhat decent. They actually included a lot of the characters in this movie, like Brian, Eddie, Raven, and a couple other side characters. Jin is the main character for this movie, unsurprisingly, and he acts like a punk the whole time. Surprisingly, there's zero mention of the Devil G. It's just not a plot factor. There are some good references to Tekken, and other times they really stretch what they consider part of Tekken. Like the Jacks are completely different. Instead of being these big, humanoid robot soldiers, they're just nameless goons wearing kendo practice outfits to be used as generic soldiers. The movie was a little better than what I expected, but it's still not that great. If anyone wants to watch the movie, I will provide a link in the description if you want to watch it for yourself. Kinjin. Mokujin, despite being such a simple character, as he's essentially a wooden dummy, has a lot of variants. There is the established Tetsujin, who is a male version of Mokujin. There are female versions of Mokujin who have gray wood and a more pronounced chest. And then there's Kinjin, a royal variant made of gold and wears a crown. He was only playable in Tekken Revolution, a free-to-play Tekken service that is no longer available. Aside from his aesthetics, he does exactly the same thing Mokujin does, as he just copies a random fighter in the game. Dragunov isn't mute. While Dragunov is known for being a man of few words, it doesn't mean he doesn't talk ever. In the Tekken 6 scenario campaign, there's actually a few moments where Drag actually says something. Most of the time it's just dots or an occasional question mark, but on a few rare occasions, he actually speaks. During a campaign mission, Elisa warns Dragunov about security cameras, where he then replies with insignificant, shocking Elisa as it's the first time she ever heard him speak. Whenever he fights Raven, he just laughs at him. Whenever he fights Kazi or Jin, he talks about how he will eliminate them. Last of all, whenever he fights in a Zaibatsu or G-Corp base, Drag says he will destroy them. Dragunov is clearly capable of speaking, just chooses not to. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, I greatly appreciate it. I apologize for the long gap between the Iceberg videos, as I plead guilty of procrastination and spending a lot of time playing Minecraft. I apologize for that. I will try to be better and release Layer 4 in a more reasonable time frame. If you want to give me more motivation, putting a like and subscribe helps me out a lot. And I thank everyone for their patience, and I will see you guys next time.